sitting all day standing is like crazy. But just a little background. Hi, my name is Johanna. Kind of like what I said before. So I'm a Master's of Social Work student at a specific university. But before I wanted to do social work, I was really into music.
She's a really good singer.
Thank you. I was really into music, and I come from a very musically talented background. My mom plays organ and piano, and I'm not good at piano really or organ, but I can sing, so I guess that kind of levels the playing field. Anyway, so when Sarah asked me to kind of present like the benefits of singing, it was kind of hard for me to put everything into words. Singing to me just kind of comes naturally, and you don't really think about a lot of the health benefits for it. Sometimes you just think about singing's great and like you sound good, but in actuality, there are a lot of health benefits that come into singing, and singing's hard work. With singing comes practice, and I personally hate practicing, but without that, you wouldn't get the outcome that you want. So I've been singing for ever since I was little. My sister started singing first, and then she was kind of like my influence in that, because whatever your older sister's doing, you want to do too. So it was kind of like that, and so I've been singing for, I can't give a number because I really don't know. It's probably double digits now. But it's always been something that's been a constant in my personal life, and I personally love it. So like when I was thinking about like the health benefits, there are a couple health benefits that come from singing that you probably don't know about. So let me tell you what those are. Physically and psychologically, there are health benefits. And the first one is that it increases oxygenation in the bloodstream. And your cousin right here, you probably know a lot about that since you're a doctor. I personally don't know that much about it, or maybe the nurses do. But pretty much what it does, singing's kind of like an aerobic activity. And you wouldn't think that it would be, but it really is. When you're singing, you're consistently using your diaphragm, and it's like an ab workout. I had a voice teacher tell me if your abs aren't hurting by the time we're done with our 30-minute lesson, then you're not breathing right. And so it's really something that you don't think about, because I personally hate PE, but I guess I'm really good at it, so it's okay. Singing exercises major muscle groups in the upper body, so like I said, the diaphragm, and even when you're sitting. So when you're sitting, and I can use you as an example, what you do is put like your feet on the bottom and then kind of like sit up straight. Put your butt to like the end of the chair. Like that, yeah. So see how her body is very straight and the posture curves a bit? Usually when we're sitting, we're slouching, right? So when you're sitting like this, your diaphragm is still up, and you can still use those like upper stomach muscles, which is hard for me to do because it's been a while. But yeah, thank you. So you can definitely, like I mentioned, it's like an ab workout, but you can do it while you're standing and while you're sitting. It also releases endorphins, and endorphins is kind of like the happy chemical in your brain, right? Am I right? Okay. I'm like, I don't know. But it releases endorphins, and endorphins, it's definitely, it's good to have endorphins coming out, whether that be in like physical activity or even singing, because that's what makes you happy. And especially during the winter months, that's something that is super helpful. I lived in Washington for 5 years, and so I didn't see the sun for about 3 months during the winter. And the only thing that kind of kept me going was singing. And that's something that, like my favorite college professor, his name's Dr. Scott. I went to Walla Walla University, and he always told us to sing no matter what. Yeah, you can take vitamin D. Yeah, you can like probably go run, but who wants to do that when you can sing, right? So singing does make you happy. Not only that, it increases a sense of community, belonging, and shared endeavor. Like we have a community here. I know that each and every one of us probably feels super connected now that we've, this is like the second or third meeting. And having a sense of community is super important when you have your own life, because if you are alone, then chances are your mental health could potentially be affected by that. There's I don't have statistics on me right now, but there are studies that show that when you are in a community, you become happier. And what's better than doing what you love, singing or anything else, and then also having that sense of belonging. A couple of other health benefits is that it improves your lung capacity. When you sing, you have to breathe, right? So one cool exercise, now that I'm thinking about it, when I first started singing, I really struggled with vibrato. Do you guys know what vibrato is? So it's like, something like that. I really struggled with that growing up, and so one of my voice teachers had me take a straw and sip through it. And it was really awkward at first, because I'm like, well, why would I sip through it if there's no drink in there? That's a waste of a straw. But she had me sip through it, and the more that you practice breathing in and breathing out, you'd be surprised how much you train your body to have more air in your system. So your lung capacity when you're breathing to sing, it gets bigger. Like I mentioned, it improves your posture when you're singing, because you consistently have to be in this up, just boobs out, chin up type of thing. That's kind of the correct posture when you're singing. And it clears your respiratory tubes and sinuses, because you are pushing all of the air out, and it kind of clears up this whole area. Quick tip, if you're ever performing anywhere, you have you mentioned choir, and you are feeling kind of stuffy, get a pot of just boiling hot water. Don't put your head in it, but put it to a point where it's kind of in it, and then put a towel over your head. When you do that, the steam from the water will go through your sinuses, and it should clear up everything. If that doesn't work, then I suggest getting a neti pot and just getting all that out. Because there's nothing worse than singing and you can't hear yourself. That's happened to me a couple of times, and it's the worst, because your ears are popped and you're just I don't even know if I'm making a sound. But one other thing is that it lowers your blood pressure, and it helps you feel more relaxed when you're singing. Singing is kind of like a healthy coping skill. So I work at the Behavioral Medicine Center, and I work with children and adolescents, and a lot of them struggle with finding positive coping skills. Their types of coping skills are pretty negative, like self-injuring, drug abuse, drinking, maybe doing things they're not supposed to, doing rebellious stuff. And it's surprising to see how many kids enjoy music. It's something that has kind of broaden my horizons when it comes to therapy, because since I'm in social work, I do want to. And I mentioned no therapy, but I like therapy, so it's fine. But having music therapy is actually beneficial when it comes to helping kids kind of get that emotion out and kind of regulate what's going on in their thinking process. Because some kids, especially in younger children, they don't necessarily know how to. They can't understand their internalized thoughts. Having music in general can help you express those suppressed emotions. And even if you're not in the Behavioral Medicine Center, if you're, like us and we're having a great time, music is something that you can use as a positive coping thing. If you have something struggling in your life, listen to calming, relaxing music, meditation music, whether that be listening to classical or even listening to classic rock and just letting it out. Music can do so much for yourself. So a lot of people will ask well, why music? Why is music so important? First of all, music, it's a science. It's exact, it's specific, and it requires directness in the score, frequency, intensities of the melodies and harmonies, and the exact time. Science is in music. Music is math. You have to it's rhythmically based off subdivisions of time into fractions in which have to be done instantaneously. So when you're reading a score, you're making those time signatures and those fractions and those counts and all that stuff. You're doing it in your head very quickly. And it's math. Sorry, thank you. It's a foreign language. Most terms are in Italian, German, French, and English, even the score of music is this thing called English notation. I'm not going to describe it because I still don't understand it, but it's the way the notes are written, and like Mozart or something, he changed it because music is consistently changing. However, it's like the same. But it is a foreign language, and you use different foreign languages, and I think that's another way that we can share our connectedness by looking at different diversities and kind of seeing what meanings mean what. Like I mentioned, it's kind of like PE, it's physical education. It requires fast motion of hands, lips, cheeks, facial expressions, muscles, and diaphragm. When you're singing, you're telling a story. And it's good to tell a story when I can see it on your face. A lot of kids at my, well, not kids, but like a lot of my music colleagues, we had a class called vocal performance, and this is where all of the voice students would come together and we would have to perform in front of the class. I personally don't like singing in small spaces. It makes me uncomfortable. But if I'm singing in a place where I can't see anybody, then I'm okay. So this class was kind of hard for me because at this point, they're not just listening to you, they're critiquing you. And you get critiqued based off what you're trying to say through the music. There was a song called, it was by Aaron Copland, Heart, We Will Forget Him. And in this song, it's pretty much this woman saying like, heart, we will forget him, stuff like that. What we did in this class is when I would sing the song, it was my song I had to sing for my senior recital, and I would sing it, I would get critiqued on, okay, what is your face doing? Johanna, why are you smiling while singing this song? Like, you're supposed to be sad. It's like, oh, oops. So it's like a lot of those things that you wouldn't think put into account. It really does take into account. And you're using a lot of your face muscles, which can also kind of be an exercise. Music, last but not least, it's an art. Like I mentioned before, it creates emotion and it connects our feelings together and our human connection together as well. It's something that even if you can't speak a different language, everybody in every culture has music. So it's kind of like that, it's like that human connection. I can't think of a different culture that doesn't integrate music, none that I know of personally. And I think it's super interesting to show that like maybe music was God's message to like connect with. Maybe that was how we were supposed to connect together. Just kind of more statistics. Music programs have estimated a 90% of graduation rate, and that's super interesting because there are a lot of kids in high school who don't really, want to graduate based off of what's going on at home sometimes. And I see that a lot in my internship, so that's really interesting. But that's a 90% rate growing when kids are enrolled in music programs. And I think that's super interesting. Music majors are the most likely group of college grads to be accepted into medical school. And I think that has to do with the correlation between mathematics, science, and music. One of my very good friends just got accepted to medical school, and he was a double major in music, and yeah, I like bioengineering, but like mainly music too. So when I read that, I was like, oh, it's true. College-age musicians are emotionally healthier than non-musician counterparts. Like I said, music and using it, whether that be like playing an instrument or using your voice, it's a coping mechanism. And then especially, and I'm sure everyone can agree, going to college kind of sucked. It was hard. It's still hard. I'm not going to go into therapy, but it sucks. And so I know that if I spent my time in undergrad and even in graduate school not having something to like calm me down, it would be really hard for me. And so I thought it was super interesting to see that people who do integrate music in their lives, whether it be, like I mentioned, just listening to music or like performing or whatever, it keeps you emotionally balanced. And I think that in the end, mental health is just as important as physical health. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people seem to think that mental health isn't super important, but it's like, no, feeding your brain is important. That's your powerhouse. and maybe mom will know more about this, but one cool stat that I found is teachers found that students were less aggressive in the classroom when involved in musical instruction. So maybe that's true. I did not listen. Okay. I found that to be interesting too. Any questions?
Do you sing at APU?
I don't sing at APU. Unfortunately, I have no time, which I didn't realize or take into account when I first started. But I used to sing. I was a music minor at Walla Walla University. I almost switched to music major, but psychology was more interesting to me. And I don't like math or theory, so I didn't do it.
Yeah, I have a question. I heard if you drink milk before you're about to sing, it's not good for you.
Mm-mm. So drinking milk before you sing is not good for you because a lot of that, like, I don't want to get too scientific, but you know, like the feeling when you have mucus. Maybe Sarah, you'll understand since you're sick. You know, when like you have mucus, milk actually feeds into that, and it can become a sticky, substance in your throat. So whenever you are supposed to sing, or like before we go caroling or whatnot, don't drink milk, don't drink don't drink coffee, don't drink, like, pretty much just drink water. Because we want to thin out as much mucus as we can, or we'll have what we call like a frog in your throat. I was in, so when I did Sound of Music at Redlands Bowl, the lady who did, you know, like in Sound of Music, you have like the main nun singer who sings like "Climb Every Mountain," that one. She had a frog in her throat, and it was really noticeable backstage. And at first, you wouldn't think like, oh, maybe she's just sick, but no, like because she had mucus in her throat and she wasn't prepared. I think she had like a coffee before. I don't know because I saw her. But she had a coffee before, and she came off stage. She was like, "Man, I didn't know what was happening. Like I had this frog in my throat." So whenever you hear that saying, it's the mucus that's building up and can cause a lot of it can cause your vocal cords to kind of close. And when you're singing, your vocal cords are open like this. And if there's sticky stuff, imagine like a piece of gum on your hands. It's like not good. Yeah.
Do you drink coffee?
I love coffee.
Oh.
That's probably why I don't sing anymore. I do sing.
Dairy-free milk.
Yeah, dairy-free milk.
If you don't put milk in it.
Maybe. I mean, like.